This is the first time in human history we are mourning in future tense. It took 6 decades to ruin democracy. Trump, Nigel Farage, Modi, Erdogan, Putin, they didn't do this. They are the outcome of a system.
A lot of people in these transitioning countries that are not in authoritarianism yet, they don't want to catastrophize. Are you saying they need to wake up?
We think that there will be somebody will do something in the end. No, it's us.
Hello and welcome to Ways to Change the World. I'm Krishnan Giri-Murthy, and this is the podcast where we talk to extraordinary people about the big ideas in their lives and the events that have helped shape them. My guest this week is Ece Temelkuran, an award-winning journalist and novelist who has spent years warning that the collapse of democracy rarely announces itself with a bang. Instead, it happens gradually. Institutions weaken, truth is eroded, and what once felt unthinkable becomes normal. Ece knows this firsthand. After being fired from her newspaper in Turkey amid mounting political pressure, she watched her country slide towards what she says is authoritarianism, a story she believes is no longer uniquely Turkish, but part of a wider global pattern. In her writing, she argues that the real danger isn't just strong men or populist leaders, but how easily societies adapt to them. Her latest book, Nation of Strangers, explores belonging and exile. But beneath it lies the same urgent question that has defined much of her work. How do democracies fail, and can they still be saved? Ece, welcome to Ways to Change the World.
Thank you for having me, Krishnan. It's amazing to be here.
If you could just change the world, what would you do?
I would make people believe in themselves, because I think they lost their faith in themselves. That's why they gave up on changing the world.
Is that the route to why people comply with the loss of their rights?
I think so. Or they numb themselves to what's happening in the world. I think they think that they survive only by numbing themselves to the realities, cruel realities of the world.
What do you think has happened in Turkey?
Well, in Turkey and in other parts of the world, and now it's in Europe and United States, what happened was democracy with its institutions crumbled. And there was a political crisis that is very present in Europe and the United States today. But then that political crisis turned into a moral crisis as well. That's why people started losing their faith in their political agency, and they lost their faith in each other, in politics in general, and in democracy, certainly.
What do you think is the root to the losing of faith? You know, what happens first? Is it that people feel failed by their governments? Is it that they don't have enough money to live? You know, what is the descent?
Krishnan, I think it goes deeper than that. I do think that fascism is embedded in neoliberal ideology. And the fundamental definition of human in neoliberal ideology is self-centered, selfish individual. And I know that we are not that, but we have been imposed this definition for such a long time, for 6 decades, probably since 1980s, that we started believing in that. That's why I think it's not only saving democracies, but we have to save the humanity from the state it is in today. And in order to do that, we have to refresh our faith in ourselves, in politics, in each other, in togetherness, in humanity, in future. So I think, those people who think that we can save democracies or our countries, our homes, by getting rid of certain political leaders, they're wrong, unfortunately. It's bad news, I know, but we have to go through a moral transformation in order to put things in order in politics.
Isn't democracy, as we are all brought up to understand it, rooted in the greater good, not just about ourselves?
Exactly. Democracy, if you look into it deeply, at the very root of it, the philosophy is having faith in people. Democracy is the regime, is the political system that depends on having faith in our political agency, in each other, in ourselves. So I think what has happened in the last 6 decades, after Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, but mostly after 2000, was that faith has been erased, and we were told that you don't have to think about anything because there is no alternative anyway.
What do you think is the difference between strong democratic leadership, which most people like, and authoritarianism?
There are so many things, but then, as I told in How to Lose a Country, there are steps from that strong leadership or strong democracy to fascism, and it always starts with disruption of rationale and erasing the truth, blurring the truth. And it begins with these movements who tell people that they represent people and they are above and beyond politics. They are clean. They are not corrupt like other politicians. And then it goes on losing the shame, removing shame from public life, which is very, very present in the United States at the moment, especially after Epstein files. And then it goes on to disruption of the institutions. Those institutions we depend so much on they literally crumble, they come to pieces. And then at the very end, these authoritarian regimes, or as I call them, fascist regimes, they build their own country and they make you homeless. You don't have to leave your country to lose home. You can feel unhomed, as I say in Nation of Strangers, while you're living in your own country.
You already felt like you'd lost your country.
Yeah, I felt like I lost my home.
I mean, see that refrain and the idea of getting our country back is one people on the left, the authoritarian right, and the left and the centre use. People say, "I feel homeless in my own country all the time." That's the language of the right now in this country.
Absolutely.
The language of, we've got so many immigrants, we've got so many people who don't speak English. I feel like a foreigner in my own land.
Absolutely, you're right. And this is why I think the concept of home is at the epicenter of our polycrisis. The politics runs on the fear of loss of home. As you said, it's on the far right as well. They are saying that our homes are invaded by strangers. So with this new book, I tried to do something different. I wanted to turn the tables. Yes, we are strangers. You are right. But you don't have to help us, but we will help you in understanding how you will navigate in these times that you will need morality of survival, because soon you will lose your homes too, either to fascism, climate crisis, or political oppression, several other things. You will feel like you're losing your home too, and we can understand this fear. Let's talk about that fear. I think today's politics is mostly about how you handle fear. Most of the time, on the left, among the progressives, there is this, there is no reason to be afraid. I think that's the worst thing you can do as a politician. No, if there is fear, you have to manage that. You have to be able to say something about it. And that's why, I wanted to write this new book. Because now we are sharing something. When I wrote How to Lose a Country, I was trying to warn people, this is going to happen to you in Europe, in the United States. When I wrote Together, I wanted to present a solution. But now we're in the same exact moment all together, from Minneapolis to India, from Istanbul to London. We feel the same thing, as if, the ground is pulled from underneath us. We feel homeless on several different levels. We feel homeless politically. We feel homeless morally. Sometimes we physically lose our homes. We lose our homes. We feel like we have no home spiritually. So I think that's why home stands at the epicenter, and more or less everybody feels it on different levels perhaps, but they are feeling this sense of homelessness.
I mean, does embracing that idea that you are a stranger in your own land, that you feel homeless, is that giving in some way? Is the answer to resisting saying, no, this is my home?
This is exactly what I'm doing in Nation of Strangers. I'm telling, if you are calling me a stranger, yes, I am a stranger, but wait, you are a stranger too. In this cruel world, what's happening around us makes us feel like strangers. So let's talk about this. Let's assess our reality, while being truthful, and also let's humble together. We're all strangers now. And that's why I keep saying we're on the same page, finally. We are feeling that something is coming. And I think this is the first time in human history we are mourning in future tense. We all know that every beautiful thing has its ending inside of it, is as if printed inside of it. And when we see beautiful things, countries, democracies, whatever you want to call it, or sea or trees, everything, every beautiful thing gives us this sense of mourning because we all already know we're going to lose things. And this goes for democracy as well. We know that we are enjoying the last bits of it, especially in Europe. We can see the ending of it. And that's why people are feeling so anxious and so terrified, I think.
In your own case, in your decision to leave Turkey, your home, how certain have you been in the last 10 years that that was the right decision to take, to make yourself a stranger in other lands as you chose to live there, rather than staying to fight democracy or for democracy?
Krishnan, this is one of the most important reasons I wrote this book, because it's an impossible question, that one. And there are letters. The book is made of letters, and every letter is written to dear stranger. And there is a long letter about this. You always ask yourself, did I do enough? Was I too early to leave? And I came to understand that that is an impossible question to deal with on your own. You can only share the burden with others, and only then the question would be answered.
So how does it unravel?
Well, how does it unravel? Let me tell you something first. In the book, there are 4 main questions. Who are you? Why did you leave your country? How will you survive here? And when will you return home? These are the questions that we are, immigrants, refugees, exiles, asked in immigration offices. So I wanted to turn these questions to explain the real story.
When you decided to leave Turkey and embark on this journey of sort of finding people elsewhere,
Yeah.
what about the people you left behind?
Nation of Strangers starts with a telephone call to my mother. And I say, Mom, I'm not coming back home. That was 2016 when I came to Zagreb. And that was the first time my mom in my life said, don't come back home. So it's such a pain to hear this, because this is the voice that always calls you back home. Of course, friends and family. I left them back home. And yeah, 2016 was the first time they told me not to come back. Because before that, there were threats, so I had to stay in London for a few months, Greece for a few months, 1 year in Tunis. But this was the last time, 2016. We're meeting, of course. And we're meeting, always we form these dinner tables. And sometimes that's why I think country is a table. Country is a table full of friends. That's it. And it's the abstract idea that surrounds that table we call country. But actually, it's that table.
So how do you define yourself? I mean, were you an immigrant to wherever you went? Mm-hmm. Were you a refugee? Were you an exile? What were you when you left?
In these studios, under the spotlights, I've been so many times called exile. For years and years, this brand, so to speak, stuck to my name. I think people love that idea. They find it somehow exotic.
Yes,
this
heroic.
Yeah, damsel in distress, intellectual damsel in distress, running away from barbarians, throwing herself into the arms of civilization. I think it gives too much credit to Europe to begin with. And second, it's morally wrong, because I know that I'm a refugee. I live in 2 realities. I'm in this media, under the spotlights now. I've been asked I have the privilege to tell my story, whereas I'm also on the visa line, which I tell a lot about in the book. I am with the other refugees, immigrants, being treated the same way.
And is the distinction that makes you a refugee rather than an exile a lack of choice?
I don't think I choose it. Many other people choose it for me. When you're a stranger in a country, What's your worth always depends on what the new people that you meet think about you. I think they give you this brand. And I think it's not for me, it's for them rather, because feeling like Europe is still safe haven makes them feel safer. Making me an exile, that narrative makes them feel like, oh, we're still enjoying, the perks of civilization, so to speak.
If this is happening to us all, or most places, is there such a thing as a safe haven?
Oh, no. When fascism was around for the first round, there was America, not only as a place to escape, but also as an idea, land of the free. Now we don't have that quote-unquote America. So maybe this should tell us that we are now finally protecting our homes from political evil. There is nowhere to go, but there is something to go to, and that is people. And this is what I learned while writing Nation of Strangers. I always thought that I could survive on my own, and I should be strong enough to survive on my own. That's what I've been told as well. And while writing Nation of Strangers, I learned that you can only survive through others. And this gives you a certain insight that makes a political solution more grounded. Because then you can, ground your political solution, which is democracy, in the faith of people, in togetherness, in connecting to other strangers. Because in the end, home is nothing today but other people. And if you feel this, you can act with the urgency to connect when connecting to other people. You can act with the faith and the need, so that your politics is not just an ideology, but also a survival kit.
I mean, can you give me an example from your own life? I mean, I suppose what you're saying is that the only safe haven now is intellectual. It's in people's...
It's not intellectual, I'm talking about real life. I learned how to be a stranger, how to survive while staying humane from the most unfortunate of strangers, homeless people, refugees in dire situations. They were the most kind people, and they told me how to stay. They showed me how to stay humane in this precarious situation, so to speak.
How?
I think most of it is facing the reality head on. And I'm not talking about surviving like a homeless when I say this, or surviving like a refugee. I think what we need today in the world, morally and politically, is facing the reality head on. We don't do it. We think that we do it. We talk about reality, but we don't really accept the reality yet. And the reality is really, really problematic. Of course, we're losing democracy. We're losing the planet, our ultimate home. And we don't have much hope about our future. So if we really accept this reality, actually it should humble us. And this is what I learned from refugees. And in order to build your home, new political, moral home, you have to accept that there is no going back home. Interestingly, in Davos, Canadian Prime Minister said that there is no going back to old order. He was telling what I was trying to tell, actually. There is no going back, not for strangers, not going home in actual terms, but also for the world to go back to old homes, or old understandings, or ways. So we have to, assess that reality truthfully, and that assessment should make us humble.
See, I mean, a lot of people in these transitioning countries that are not in authoritarianism yet, but where democracy is weakening.
Yep.
They don't want to catastrophize. They don't want to say everything is gone and going to hell in a handcart and my life is over and the security that I have known and my family have known for generations is gone. They want to believe that there is a natural pendulum, that it will come back, things will get better, we won't go over the cliff edge. And in small periods of time, we tend not to go over cliff edges. Things tend to get steadily worse over time.
Yeah.
Are you saying they need to wake up?
That that political Cassandra role, I kind of assumed that role with How to Lose a Country. Nation of Strangers is different, and I am different now. And I'm telling people, yes, it might be worse than this. It probably will be worse than this. But let's sit in this uncertainty and let's really, truly connect to each other so that we can really this time change everything and we can rebuild a political moral home together again. The problem is there is this abstract trust in institutions, and I'm now talking about politics, real politics, so to speak. The abstract trust in institutions is, I think, dragging the act for many people. We think that the court will, save us from this. We think that there will be somebody will do something in the end. No, it's us. And when I talk about humility, I mean this. There is nothing. There is us only. It's me and you. That's it. And this should be enough. But in order to believe that this is enough, we have to believe in each other.
So in terms of this book, I mean, you have been, in your terms, a refugee for 10 years, nearly. How has your identity changed over that period?
My identity, I was somebody in Turkey, and then overnight, almost, I became nobody. That is a very humbling, educating experience, because you then understand that home is not the place you remember, but where you are remembered. Nobody remembers you around you. So that is a very humbling experience. And then you ask yourself, truly, not like in immigration offices, but you truly ask yourself, who am I now? And then it takes a lot of time to come to peace with the reality that home can only be here and now. There's, you cannot go back. The home you long for is no longer there, one. And for Syrians, for Iraqis, for Sudanese, probably it's like this. And the second thing is the thing you long for is in the past. It's gone. So it takes a lot of time to come to here and now. And I think I managed to do that through writing this book. That's why I feel like a different person now. And I truly, truly believe that my home is made of people. I'm living in Berlin. And I keep saying people, oh, I like Berlin. It's lovely, Berlin. Mm-hmm. And then last Christmas, my friends were gone and there was no more Berlin. And I thought, yeah, of course.
So it stopped being home?
Yeah. And that's why, people will have to learn to make people their home. And once people become home, you cannot let them go. You have to forgive them. You have to be generous. You have to be loving and so on. These words, love, generosity, humility, kindness, compassion, these words are funny things. When you try to put them in political theory, like I try to do,
they don't fit.
They disappear. But actually, those are the words that we depend on when things really go horribly wrong. When we have to survive, these are the words that you live on. So my identity became more humane, I think. I now know how to live on the kindness of others, which is a very hard thing for a person with a pride. But we will have to get rid of that pride soon, all of us, when we have to survive. And then we will have to humble ourselves to accept the kindness of others.
Do you think that there is any politics which can embrace and take into account relationships, love, family, trust? It's interesting if you think about politics in the West for the last 20 or 30 years. Occasionally, politicians have tried to grasp this idea of well-being, of the quality of life, that growth isn't just about economics. But nobody's really been able to define it properly and knit it into a political framework.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible?
Well, I tried to do that in Together, the previous book, and with Nation of Strangers as well. Because people do not want to see that fascism today, the new form of fascism, has an emotional machine. It's like an electric seesaw. It cuts people. It cuts all ties that makes you belong to a place. And so we have to create a counter machine, so to speak, or we have to deconstruct this machine in order to be able to fight it politically. People are exhausted, Krishna. More than anything else, they're confused and exhausted. And this exhaustion has a political consequence. It's not like, individual depression or like being bored or being, fed up with news. No, it's more than that. What's happening around the world right now, or what's happening in our countries, hit people very deeply. And not really, every politician cares about that, or intellectuals either. We find it too, many people, I don't, but many people find it too, I don't know, they cannot bring themselves down to that idea that people are suffering.
Yes, you see, how do you persuade people who don't instinctively or naturally or obviously feel that they have a link or a relationship with another group of people in their country, that they do? Won't the haves always feel disconnected from the have-nots?
Class issue, yes, exactly.
I mean, not just class, but immigrants, refugees, political division. There are always people who will feel secure in their own group, who
definitely
feel that they don't have anything in common with the strangers.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're saying is we should all find the threads.
The thread is simple, but it takes a little bit courage to realize that. Especially refugees and the poor refugees, let's say, underprivileged refugees. They are seen as people that are asking for help. And there's this perception about strangers in general. Oh, these people came to our country, so we need to help them now. It's exactly the opposite. I mean, like, we're here to help you. We know how you're going to lose your country. So let us tell you what's going to happen, and at least what you should not do.
What do you think is going to happen here? If we're going to lose our country, how will it happen?
It's not losing your country is not like somebody invading you. Well, now with Trump, that's also possible, obviously, for Greenlanders at least. But a
lot of Americans do feel that they've sort of been invaded, that they've lost their country violently.
I'm sure people in Minnesota, Minneapolis, they feel like they are under attack in their own homes, in their own country. And that is, I always see Minneapolis like a micro nation of strangers, because what they are doing there, they ousted ICE to begin with, but throughout that time, it was horrible. The violence was horrible, terrifying, but what they did, they supported each other. They held onto each other, and they didn't let it go. They were strangers to each other, and they formed a nation of strangers. Minneapolis is a very good preview of future, I think. And you don't have to leave your home to feel homeless. When you feel threatened, when your regime, your government tells you that you do not count as normal citizen, I treat you as enemy, that's when you lose your home. But Minneapolis, I'm sure many people suffer. Of course, many people suffered, but then I'm pretty sure they also lived best days of their lives as well, because they defended their dignity together. And you ask me, what is home, or who are you now? I came to understand that home is other people, and you build it by holding each other when your hands are full. So what's happening in Minneapolis is important. It happened in several other places in the world, but when it happens in the United States, of course, we watch all together. So yeah, that's a preview to the future, I think.
What's your
Not in terms of like everybody, every city is going to be attacked, but we will have to hold on to each other with such conviction, so to speak.
If we are losing ourselves and our home and our country in Britain, how do you think it plays out? How do you think it happens?
Stammer called this country island of strangers. I think it starts there when, if everybody could say that we are all strangers and we are proud strangers, who are you? I think that would make everyone feel like, yeah, we're at home here. Those who makes us feel like strangers, they are not at home with humanity and with themselves. Of course, far right, Nigel Farage and his likes and so on, they are becoming stronger and stronger. I remember Nigel Farage in 2016, nobody was taking him seriously. And he has become the most important political figure in this, most impactful figure in this country, unfortunately. So yeah, I think people lost faith in democracy in general, but it's not their mistake. Democracy did not fulfill its promise. That's why these people are becoming so powerful. Democracy's fundamental promise was equality. But our reality, which is hardcore, cutthroat capitalism, tells us that there is no equality, there will be not equality. So those two things clash, and I think we didn't support democracy enough against the other promise.
But the pessimistic part of what you're saying is also that you don't seem to believe that there is a political solution. That democracy can be rescued by good politics and good politicians.
Oh, it's not going to be rescued with the existing tools, for sure.
Why not? Why not?
Why not? Because, as I told you, democracy in its current state is a theatrics of itself, and everybody knows that. Nobody's stupid. Everybody knows that if a system is constantly telling them, you have equal rights, you have equal voting rights, and so on, but meanwhile, the bigger and the deeper reality is exactly the opposite of that, of course, people would go to those leaders who say that, I am with you, I'm going to save you from this oppressive elite. Of course. And we have to understand them as well. We don't have to accept, but we have to understand. This is politics. It's not going to be easy. But it took from 1980, how many decades? Six decades. It took 6 decades to ruin democracy. Trump, Nigel Farage, Modi, Erdogan, these people, Putin, they didn't do this. They are the outcome of a system that ridiculed the fundamental promise of democracy. So yes, unfortunately, it will take a few decades to build this up. So we have to redefine democracy. We have to talk about real democracy. We have to talk about the economic system we're living in, the real equality. And unless a politician truly promises this, that true equality and dignity, I think it has no chance. And people, I think, waiting for that courage from politicians.
So finally, can you give us some tips then, in terms of what you've learned over 10 years? I mean, you say what you've learned is that home is people, your people. That's really, really hard for a lot of people.
It is.
Forming relationships isn't easy. Forming bonds isn't easy for a lot of people. But what have you learned about how you do this?
You don't, if you don't have to learn this, you don't learn this. I had to learn it. That's why I know now. And I didn't like learning this either, because it's either the dominant morality we're living in or it's my upbringing. I was always supposed to be very strong, very brave, self-sustaining, and so on. And I think it's probably dominant morality because it always tells us, the self is important. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to be powerful individuals and so on. No, it's bullshit. We can only take care of each other because being human is such a difficult thing, especially in these times. So carrying the burden of the self, carrying the burden of being human is so difficult. You have to have other people too. And you don't have to learn this unless you have to survive really as a stranger. But I think many, many more people will have to experience this. I'm talking about these dark stuff, and then you're telling that no. Actually, Nation of Strangers is good news. It's like Am I allowed to say these things? I don't know. We're in the damn same shit together. Let's survive together. When I talk about humility, when I talk about truthfulness in assessing the reality, this is what I mean. We are in the same visa line together, and we're trying to get to the other side, to the more humane side, humane times. And those visa lines, they look horrible from outside. Of course, it's miserable, but miserables of the world coming together, waiting in visa lines. I've been through that a lot. But there's amazing poetry there as well, the poetry of being human, because there's a lot of humor, there's a lot of solidarity, random solidarity with strangers. And you learn there that there is a language of strangers, there is a way of being there, and there is a way to stay humane despite all the misery. And that exact same, language will be used by us soon, because we will have to drop the act. We are still dragging the act that everything will be back to normal soon.
Could you tell me a bit more about the language of strangers? I mean, this is something I guess I've seen as well amongst refugees particularly.
Yeah.
Humor, and the way people get on and force themselves to get on in the most dire situations.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about what you've learned.
But they don't get on their own. That's important. They get on together. It's like falling together, actually. We're falling together and we're holding to onto each other. And yeah, there's a lot of gallows humor to start with. And there's always certain directness, which might come across as bluntness to other people or impolite. But, nobody in these studios asks me about my status, residency status. When I meet a stranger, this is the first question. What's your status? Like, are you on permanent or temporary? Did you apply for citizenship? These are real things. And it's lovely. It is a different kind of kindness. It's a different kind of generosity. It's harsh, but it's nice. And also, I think we help each other by gallows humor. That's happening a lot. I have one of the characters in the book, not characters, Ayat is a real person, another stranger from Syria. Whenever I call him, he's having really, really, really difficult life at the moment. But, he's the one who can cheer me because he knows what being really bad means. So he always asks me, like, oh, so how are you going to commit suicide? You don't do this to other people. And many of us, by the way, and especially Syrian refugees, they tell the same story. We tell our stories to each other in a real way, with all the details and so on, with laughter, a lot of laughter. And then I heard this a lot of times. But of course, I don't tell this to Germans. But of course, I don't tell this to British. Why? Because they would be traumatized. So yeah. It's, I think, assessing reality with humility, humor, and a profound kind of generosity and kindness.
And what is your status?
I won't tell you. I'm in my intellectual damsel mode now.
Ece Temelkuran, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Krishna.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that. You can watch all of these interviews on the Channel 4 News YouTube channel. Until next time, bye-bye.